Good evening and welcome to another edition of Fightnwords on the Fightnwords News Network. Fightnwords is brought to you each and every night of the week in grateful appreciation to the men and women of the United States Armed Forces, the men and women police and fire services, the doctors and nurses, and first responders to COVID, and especially those wonderful people in the stores that keep our shelves stocked during the pandemic. Tonight's program is also dedicated to a wonderful group of people. These people were brought into a meeting in March of this last year at the Florida Sheriff's Association meeting, and they were told about a Operation Dragonfly. And what it was is a combination of 20 individual agencies got together under the auspices of Federal Marshal Bob Bradley, and they went out in this last 2 weeks and saved 60 young adults from being trafficked. They picked up 124 adults between either pushers, pimps, or traffickers. And for that, we want to laud that group. We also want to send a special thanks out to our good friend, Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Chronister, Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Galtieri, Manatee County Sheriff Ricky Wells, and Pasco County Sheriff Chris Nacco. So you guys did a great job. We appreciate it. I know Nacco is listening, and Wells always listens. So we just want to make sure that your people knew that we dedicated this to you. Well, we are honored tonight to have one of the icons of boxing in the Philadelphia area and worldwide, actually. Russell Peltz was just this year this year alone was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame and the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, along with a number of things that he's been given he's earned over the last many years that he's been in the business. So Russell, we want to welcome you. We're wondering about. One of the questions that keeps coming up is Boots Ennis and moving up. Do you think that's a good move for him?
Okay, number one, just a quick fact check. I was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2004.
Okay.
Okay, no big deal. Do I think it's a good move for Boots Ennis to? I don't know. There's such a. I don't know why they. Champions aren't satisfied with staying in the, Hagler never moved up. Monzon never moved up. Great champions kept their titles. Of course, those were in the days when there were only 8 weight classes. Mm-hmm. Now there's 17. So, I mean, if there's no one for him to fight at 147 and he really hasn't fought, I don't think Boots Ennis has beaten anybody that is even a remote chance to be in any Hall of Fame. So I don't know if it's a good move or not. I don't know how good Boots Ennis is. I think he's a good fighter, but the competition is so thin that it's hard to tell anymore who's a good fighter and who's not a good fighter. Mm-hmm. There seem to be better fighters at 154, but that's what today's so-called experts say. Mm-hmm. So it's I don't know. I really don't.
Could you give our listeners just a brief background of some of the fighters that you had a chance to promote over the years?
Okay, so ones they would know: Ernie Shavers fought for me, Ron Lyle fought for me, Jimmy Young fought for me, Tim Witherspoon, Emil Griffiths, Ernie Terrell, Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearns, Aaron Pryor, Saad Muhammad, Bobby Chacon, Jeff Chandler. I mean, they're just, it's a lot, Orlando Canizales, Arturo Gatti. This was in the days before promotional contracts where mm-hmm. you made your money by putting on the best fights mm-hmm. and you didn't control a certain fighter. Naturally, all the Philly guys fought for me: Benny Briscoe, Cyclone Hart, Boogaloo Watts, Willie the Worm Monroe, who, in my opinion, is the only guy who ever decisively beat Marvin Hagler, Willie the Worm Monroe. Mm-hmm. So off the top of my head, I got Michael Spinks fought for me. Bronco McCart, Antonio Tarver, Buster Douglas, who I released from his contract, Marvin Hagler, who I turned down. So I've been, 50 years as a promoter, and now like the last 5 years as a manager, consultant, advisor.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a new book came out not too long ago? Could you tell us about the book? Could you give us the name and what it's all about?
My book is $30 and a Cut Eye. It came out in September of 2021. It's about my 50 years in boxing. And by the end of this year, I'll hope to have sold 2,000. I'm 30 away from 2,000, which I never thought a self-published boxing book in this century would sell that many copies. It's not about Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson, but it's about what goes on behind the scenes in boxing, the deals that are made, the money that's paid, how much the promoter made, how much we lost, things I'm proud of, things I'm ashamed of. Mm-hmm. But it's, as they say, it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, because I call the internet the misinformation highway. Mm-hmm. And I just got tired of reading so many things on the internet that are not true, that are written by people who are not around, but act like they were around. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was time for someone to write a book about what goes on behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And I lived it. Mm-hmm. So if you believe that I'm telling the truth, then it's what really happened in the last half century in boxing, primarily on the East Coast, Atlantic City and Philly. Those are the states and fighters I had that I traveled around the world with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tony and I were talking to Bernard Fernandez.
For me.
I remember.
Oh, Bernard Fernandez, okay.
Yeah, and Bernard was saying that they were going to, they got a group together to try and put Clover Lay back together. Is that true?
No, I don't know anything about that. I think they put a group together to try and restore and the Brazier's Gym,
right,
on North Broad Street. That's what it is, to restore the gym. What they should have done was they should have protected the Blue Horizon.
Right.
Instead, a company bought it and gutted some of it, and then they didn't run out of funds. They're going to turn it into a boutique hotel. And then they suddenly realized a year or two later that they had no parking. Mm-hmm. So now it sits there on North Broad Street with the chicken wire around it, and they're looking to sell it to someone for $7.5 million. Ooh. It's a disgrace that the city let that happen.
Yep. That was a great place to go and get boned up on fights. And one of our former partners who passed away, it's 3 years ago now. Dr. Chris Panarella. Chris used to box there when he was at Temple Dental School. And then he had his son, who's Dr. Lance Panarella, used to go there and box. In fact, the one funny story he used to tell about was he took Lance down to South Philly to go a couple rounds with Joey Giardello. But I guess Joey was so interested in either losing money or winning money in a card game that they sat around for 2 hours till Chris got pissed off and walked out the door. Tony, you got a question?
No, I love what I'm hearing, and I want a copy of that book. I'm going to be buying that book for sure.
Yeah, why don't you tell us where they can get that book?
They can either buy it from me or buy it from Amazon. Okay. $30 and a Cut Eye.
Okay.
Very good. That's the kind of stuff people want to read. They don't want all the fluff. No.
Yeah.
Listen, if you got a minute, I'll tell you the story.
Go ahead.
So I was 22 when I promoted my first fight. Mm-hmm. And in those days, if you remember, when you would watch the fights on TV, you'd only see the main event. Mm-hmm. And when you turn on the TV, you'd see 4 or 5 guys in ties and jackets in the ring, mm-hmm. and they'd get introduced before the main event. Willie Tabb, Sandy Sadler, Kid Gavilan. Or there would be a kid fighting next week, and they said, next week you can see this kid, and they'd introduce. Well, on my first fight, I wasn't at ringside. This guy got into the ring. He's wearing a three-piece suit with a top hat, a walking cane, and a tail, and one of those big bow ties like the clowns would squirt water out of.
Right.
And he got introduced in the ring. His name was John Saunders. He was known more for his, as Tom Cushman wrote, sartorial splendor and his boxing ability. He had a record of no wins, 3 losses, and a draw. So I was promoting fights every 2 weeks, and this is my first show. So the next day I get a call from his manager who says, Saunders wants to fight on your second show. So I go to the gym to sign him, and he's still wearing a three-piece suit. And I hand him a contract for $50 for 4 rounds. Now, this is 1969. Ringside was 5, and the balcony was 3 at the Blue Horizon.
Right.
So he's insulted. I'm not fighting for $50. I said, that's fine. I'm not here to negotiate. Maybe another time. So I start to walk down the steps out of the gym. And his trainer says, no, come on back up. We'll sign. So I like to tell people this was my first official bluff. So he signs the contract, and the fight's like, a week and a half later. He's fighting a kid who's 3-1. It's a good fight. But in the second round, he gets cut over the left eye, and the referee stops the fight on a TKO. So at the end of the night, all the fighters are in line waiting to get paid. He's still wearing a three-piece suit, no cane, no top hat. His shirt's open at the collar, beads of sweat, no bow tie, and he's got a bandage over his left eye. So he comes up to the table to get his money, and we give him the pay sheet. We deducted $10 for his license, $8 for his Pennsylvania boxer's insurance, and $1.50 for his city wage tax. So the net figure at the bottom of the pay sheet was $30.50. So he stared at the pay sheet for it seemed like an eternity. But he finally shook his head and signed the paper, cashed the check, and he turned, and as he left the building, he shook his head and he said, $30 and a cut eye. And he left the building. And ever since that night, I knew, I had been a sports writer. I knew if I ever wrote a book, that would be the title of the book, $30 and a cut eye.
That's great.
So, that's what the book's about. It's about the underbelly of boxing, what you don't read in the papers.
Right. Let me ask you something. A good friend of mine is Dave Tabiri. And everybody knows that Dave got screwed out of a championship. And then he and Bill Roth tried to do a bill that would write things like that. Did you have anything to do with Dave or Joey?
I was his promoter. Up through and including that fight. Personally, I thought the fight was very close.
Right.
And I'm not sure that. Alex Wallow was the analyst, and he made it sound like it was out-and-out robbery. I'm not so sure, but the whole world thinks so. Maybe I'm wrong. I do remember Donald Trump coming into the dressing room after the fight and saying, "We'll never do another fight again here at the Taj Mahal until they reverse this decision." And we begged Dave to take the rematch for what would have been a lot of money back then. And he just wouldn't do it. Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe he feels he made the right decision. Maybe he did. I don't know. I don't know how that would have paid off for him or not.
Yeah. Well, he's doing very well now.
Oh, that's good.
He got a job with the Delaware State Police as the fitness instructor, and he just retired from there. And he has a county job that he's working at, and then he has a foundation that he's helping people in Delaware that can't afford food or clothing, or he just gave away a car seat to a lady the other day. But Dave and his brothers and his Joey, his nephew. Had a short run, but he wasn't getting any more than 4 or 5 rounds, and he just walked away finally and said, "That's it."
He did the right thing. I do a lot of business with his brother Nick,
right,
who's a matchmaker.
Right.
Joey did the right thing, because I tell these guys, because when I wrote my book, I spoke to a lot of the fighters that had fought for me, and it was very disheartening to hear them as they tried to remember their careers. And I tell these guys, it's not the fights that do it to you. It's all the sparring you do in the gym all the time, every day, during the week. If you box 3 days a week, 4 rounds a day, that's 12 rounds of boxing you're doing every week. That's 36 minutes. 36 minutes every week. You're subjecting yourself to getting hit in the head. Now, that can't be good for you when you get to be 50 or 60 years old.
Right.
It's especially in Philly, where the gym workouts are as good as the fight.
Yeah. Well, I know you're on a short time, and I really appreciate your coming on and give us another shout out for your book and where people can get to it.
$30 a buy on Amazon, or it's just late for them to get it. If they want it signed, then they'd have to get it directly from me.
Okay.
Peltzboxing.com. I don't know what shape the website's in right now, but they can always get a hold of me personally through Facebook if they want it signed.
Sounds great. Well, again,
listen, it's the best boxing book you're ever going to read. It's unlike any boxing book you're ever going to read.
Good. Great.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we have a trove of books that Bernard had written, and so I can't wait to add this to my collection.
Yeah, I wish Bernie had written more about Philly. And being from Philly, that was my one criticism of Bernie, who I call my favorite boxing writer of the 21st century, because Tom Cushman, in my day, he was the man.
Right.
So let me tell you got time for one more story?
Sure.
So Tommy Hearns was 17-0, 17 KOs. Well, 16 of his fights have been in Detroit. He was drawing big crowds there. So we brought him into the Spectrum in March of 79. Bobby Chacon was in the main event, and Tommy was against Jerome Artis, and Tommy was fighting Alfonso Heyman, who recently passed away. And at that point, he was way over the hill, Heyman. His record was like 18-17. And he'd won 2 in a row, but they were in Virginia Beach, which doesn't count,
right?
Because it's not exactly a boxing capital. So Chacon pulls out of the fight, and Artis pulls out of the fight a week ahead of time. So we move Hearns up to the main event. He was getting $5,000 to fight Heyman. So I go in the gym one day, and Emmanuel Stewart's there working with Hearns, because we brought him in a week early for publicity. He says, "Did you get the call from my lawyer?" I said, "No." "What's that about?" He said, "You'll get a call." So his lawyer called. I go back to the Spectrum. His lawyer calls me. They want more money now that they're in the main event. And I went ballistic, because it was a nothing fight. It was a walkover fight.
Right.
And we were going to lose money on the show.
Right.
But I agreed. He was getting $5,000, so I agreed to give him $6,000 plus a percentage of the gate if it did over so much money. So comes the night of the fight. I went to the president of the Spectrum, and I said, "Listen, Hearns never signed a new contract, and I'm not paying him more than the original contract." Okay? So he said, "Fine." So Hearns goes out, and he breaks his hand in the fight, and the fight goes the limit. First time Hearns goes the limit with Alfonso Heyman. So the fight's over, and I said, "We're going to need some security in the pay room." So we had some officers in there, and Manuel Stewart comes in to get paid. And I only paid him $5,000. He said, "Where's the rest of the money?" I said, "You never signed a new contract, so I'm not giving you the extra money." So he appealed to the commissioner, and he showed the commissioner the contract that said we had to play to give him special Reyes gloves, and we didn't do that either. And the commissioner said to him, "Listen, you're showing me the original contract. The original contract says you're getting $5,000. That's my ruling. You're only getting $5,000. Now, let me tell you something. This was a terrible thing for me to do, because I value my word, and I'm ashamed that I did this, okay? because you don't do that. You tell the guy you're getting more money. You just don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was writing the book, I got an attack of guilt. So I called Jackie Callan up, who's one of the female. She got into the International Hall of Fame last year, deservedly so, because she's been in the business. She was Hearns' publicist back then, and she's still close with Tommy. So she put Tommy on the phone. I said, Tommy, and she said, Tommy, Russell's sending you the $1,000 that he stiffed you out of in 1979. So Tommy says, you know, Russell, $1,000 from 1979 is worth a lot more money today. So I said, yeah, you know what, Tommy, you're right. But 1979, you would have had to give money to Emmanuel Stewart. You would have had to give money to your co-trainer. You would have had to pay your cut man. So let's just leave it as this. So I sent him $1,000 because Tommy's not doing well.
Right.
You know, he had to sell his memorabilia, trunks, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So he gets money for personal appearances. But like I said about the other story with the $30, that's what the book is about, the stuff you don't read in the paper.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Did you tell Tommy you were going to send him the other $5,000 in a couple of weeks? No, he got the $5,000. It was the extra $1,000 he didn't get. Yeah, I just told him to give him another $5 just because he didn't get jobs.
Caden, you have any questions?
Yeah.
I was wondering before, you were talking about the array of all the legendary fighters that you managed, and you're talking about the best fighting the best. And I feel like something that we talked about on this show all the time, at least recently, is it seems like the culture in boxing now, or in a lot of combat sports, is that the best don't really fight the best anymore. Do you think it was easier to line up those fights then than it is today?
Oh, sure, because you only had one champion in each division. And the only way to get the title fight was to fight your way up through the top 10. Now when you have 4 sanctioning bodies, you got 4 top 10s, so you can move up by attrition. The guy in front of you loses, you move up. Another guy, they don't, everything, you know, Floyd Mayweather put in everybody's head that you got to be undefeated. So you can't, why can't you make the fights you used to make at the Spectrum? Because you can't get those guys to fight each other now.
Right.
You know, Briscoe and Hagler was a 10-round fight. We drew 15,000 people. You know, Hart and Briscoe, 10,000. Tyrone Everett, you know, these guys were drawing 7,000, 8,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, black fighters, Detroit and Philly where black fighters made the most money based on ticket sales before, you know, when Prism came in late in 76, I think they were giving us like 2,000 a fight, something like that. And it, you know, it just, listen, you're smarter. We're all smarter today than we were 10 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because we're experienced. So if a kid today is ranked number 5 in the world and his record, let's say, is 16-1, he's 5 in the world. Well, in the 1950s or 60s, the 5th ranked guy in the world might have had a record of 38-10, maybe with 2 or 3 draws. So he's had 50 fights and this kid's had 17. And not only that, the 50 fights that guy had were real fights.
Right.
Real tough guys. They weren't guys from Arkansas and North Carolina and Iowa and, you know, the way these guys build up their records today. So how do you know who's good? And when this kid who's 16-1 gets to fight for the world title, 9 times out of 10, he's fighting a guy who came up the same way.
Right.
So how do you know? How do you know who's good anymore?
Right. Zito, do you have a question?
First of all, I do want to say I got on the show late, pardon me, and just hearing everyone talk, I want to say hello to Mr. Russell Phelps. It's been a long time to talk to you. It's been a long time to even hear your aspect. And just sitting back and hearing your aspect, I totally concur with what you're saying. I kind of want to add on to a degree with that too. Let's go back to even further with the 1920s to the 1930s, where guys used to have hundreds of fights, and they weren't title contenders. When you had hundreds of fights, and you weren't a title contender because you had to go around to fight and how I'm going to say, you had to beat certain people to be the champion. You had to beat the good ones to be the champion. Simple as that. You had to beat the man to be the man, and that has lost the flavor nowadays. Just to talk on that, Caden asked a perfect question. You talked about me. Mr. Russell Peltz, I do want to allude to one thing, and I've always wanted to know your honest assessment of this fight. And I was with you, next to you during the fight. Me and my brother were with you when Amir Mansour fought Stevie Cunningham in the Lear Core Center. And that was a heck of a fight. How do you think that fight went?
When Mansour couldn't finish him in what was it, the 5th or 6th round?
Yeah.
When I think I was with Joe Hand was near me, and I know Steve Carlton, the Phillies pitcher, was there. Yes, I turned to whoever was sitting next to me. I said, he's not going to win the fight. We had Mansour. I was involved with Mansour because he was spent, and his corner couldn't do the job to revive him from how much energy he expended knocking Cunningham down twice. And in the other corner was Nassim Richardson, who passed away a few years ago. He was the guy that discovered that Margarita had the bad hand wraps with Shane Mosley or whoever it was with. So he had a much better corner, and I knew the fight. Mansour was out of gas, and then he wound up getting dropped late in the fight. And yet Cunningham is dirt. It was a dirt fight that nobody saw. There was a small crowd there at the Leocore Center, but it could have turned Mansour. It would have pushed Mansour really up there to have beaten Cunningham. But as much as I wanted him to win, he didn't win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember it was a very exciting fight, and that, to be honest, Amir, to me, Stevie was outboxing him the whole fight. Stevie got caught, and when he got caught, I think that and as we say this much, the referee was Steve Smoker,
right?
And Steve Smoker is notorious for not stopping fights,
right?
So, and I've heard complaints about people giving Amir and Stevie that long count. That's been talked about. That he got a little extra time, and I've always kind of went to the way of saying Smoker doesn't give people, he's going to keep the fight going. He doesn't give people breaks like that. So,
the referee might have stopped the fight, but
yes, Smoker's not going to do that. I do, and the only other thing I actually had to ask you is, what was the biggest, I want to ask, what's the best fight that you promoted? But, I guess the biggest, maybe the better question.
Oh, it's a tough question. The best fight I ever saw, I promoted, in my life, which was the first fight between Saad Muhammad and Marvin Johnson at the Spectrum in '77 when Saad knocked him out in the last round, the 12th round.
Who promoted that?
I've been around since '69. Yeah.
Oh, I remember that. Marvin Johnson.
Yeah. So the biggest crowd in the history indoors in Pennsylvania for a championship fight was Tyrone Everett and Alfredo Escalera in '76. That drew 16,000 people indoors. Pennsylvania record, the largest indoor crowd in Pennsylvania history for a non-world championship fight was Briscoe and Hagler in '78, which drew 15,000 people.
Okay.
And I got to run, guys.
Okay.
I got to run.
Russell, we appreciate your time and all your talents that you've given to the industry. We thank you very much, and we'll be looking forward to picking up the book from Amazon.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Frank and guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Caden, you're up. Alexander Pedroia knocked out Kara. What's your thoughts?
That was a great fight. I think it was a submission win, no? Or was that?
It was a TKO.
Yeah. I'm kind of discombobulated. I kind of just woke up right before I got on here, so I'm a little discombobulated. I remember how the fight went. Don't 100% remember how it ended. But that fight, honestly, it was pretty predictable for what I thought was going to happen. Pantoja, I mean, he's so consistently ferocious from the start of the fight to the end of the fight, and his pressure and his grappling is it completely extinguished Kai Kara-France. You know, we always like to see Kai Kara-France get some distance and get, throw some nice shots in there and do what he does and try to utilize his knockout power to an advantage. But you got Alexandre Pantoja just getting up in his face, pushing him up against the fence, taking him down every single chance that he can. Kai Kara-France never had a chance to do anything that he was planning on doing. I mean, he was just shut down in every single aspect of the fight. Kind of reminded me of he fought Kai Kara-France how Merab Dishravelli fought Sean O'Malley recently. It was just complete, constant, dominant pressure just to overwhelm Kai Kara-France, and it worked. I mean, it was just Kai Kara-France, he didn't know what to do. I haven't seen him that overwhelmed and that just taken back since he fought Kai Asakura 2 years ago. And I think the bigger story around Pantoja, the Kai Kara-France is what's next. Mm-hmm. Before that, we had Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval, which was honestly one of the best fights I'd ever seen in UFC history. It's one of the best fights I've ever seen. And it mostly because you got a guy, Joshua Van, coming right off the couch. He was fighting 3 weeks ago. He just got a brutal knockout 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, this dude wasn't even a ranked UFC fighter. And last week, he goes in and beats the #1 ranked fighter in a 3-round match. And he's only 23 years old. Only 23 years old. And this dude was absolutely balling in that fight. I mean, when I say it's one of the best fights I've ever seen, it's one of the best fights I've ever seen. He was taking shots, giving them back, tenfold. It was absolutely brilliant, and I really want to see him fight for the title. I don't think he has what it takes right now to beat Alexandre Pantoja. Mm-hmm. But the thing that's so interesting about a guy like Joshua Van is that he is the 6th youngest UFC fighter. Mm-hmm. He is 23 years old, and he's the #1 ranked fighter in his division. You really never see a guy that's that young be this good ever. Mm-hmm. Ever. I mean, I think he's probably the best 23-year-old or anybody under 25-year-old in the UFC right now. Mm-hmm. So, to me, that whole division right now just got so much more complicated and exciting all in one night. Good.
Let's go over to the other side. Tony, what do you think about Jake Paul's domination of Julio Cesar Chavez?
You ready for a nice long tangent? Mr. Fernandez or Mr. Bernard, I know he's out there agreeing with me. I know you're listening. I want you back on the show. I need some defense here. But when he left the show, was it last week or the week before? I know we were talking about Jake Paul, and I truly believe we're on the same page. And after seeing that one, I completely 100% concur with the way he's thinking and being cautious about what he's saying. I'll say it out loud. It's a scam. The whole Jake Paul thing is a scam. This guy's got all of us by the balls, believe in his bullshit. And I'm telling you right now, he had to take a loss for some reason, and no better person than, what was it, Tyson Fury's brother, was it?
Right.
Well, that's a nice payday. Tyson says, hey,
You got to lose one to make it look real. So lose to my brother. Here's your money.
Right.
That's the way I look at this whole thing. I'm going to say it how it is. You got Caesar Jr. that came back at the last 2 rounds and starts just absolutely going nuts like he's on a bender and just hit Jake Paul. Well, he could have done that earlier. He didn't have to wait those last 2 rounds to do it, especially the last round before the last round. So, and then get deported on top of it. I mean, he's had one hell of a trip this week.
Yeah.
For sure. But
Z, what do you think?
That's fun.
Z, what do you think? Do you think that may have been playing on his mind when he was in the ring, that he knew that there was problems coming for him?
All right. I'm going to start with the actual fight first.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm going to say is this. I've said it. Chavez is known to toss a dud up. He's done it in all of his biggest fights. Even, we're not talking about Jake Paul level. We're talking about Canelo level. We're talking about, like, Honduras. We're talking about, like, to the highest level of boxing. Chavez has thrown up duds.
Mm-hmm.
Every big money fight, he does the same thing. So even in hoping that he'd do something different with Jake Paul, I literally predicted that he'd throw up another dud.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what he's used to doing.
Mm-hmm.
As far as anything else, I'm going to say this much, and this is kind of how I stand on everything. I don't know if he's guilty or not. I was not there with him, so I'm not going to judge that man at all. I can't even talk about what was speculated or why, because I wasn't with it.
Mm-hmm.
If I wasn't with you, I don't know what you have done. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to talk about what other people talk about. That's kind of the way I go.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, according to the PCA, he was involved in trafficking of firearms, ammunition, and explosives. But this was a warrant out of Mexico, and it's not a brand new warrant. It's a warrant that's been out there for a year or so. And I just was wondering why the hell they moved on it now, other than they thought maybe they'd get more money out of it and more play out of it. But ICE took him into custody and is going to make sure that he gets a good ride home. Caden had his phone died. So, Z, what do you think of Ilia Topuria and the Charles Oliveira fight?
I'm sorry, who?
Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira.
I did not see that fight. I know that it was coming up. Topuria and Oliveira. What happened?
Topuria won.
I expected Topuria to win. Was it decision?
Yes, it was. It was a decision. It was a good battle.
And I'm happy because one thing is Oliveira, he's hard with decisions anyway, which means Topuria's game had to be 5 rounds deep.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say 5 rounds deep, I mean, I understand Topuria probably has a striking advantage over Oliveira. But for 5 rounds, Oliveira is going to get skin to skin. And to deal with him skin to skin without getting submitted, that means something. Hayden can talk better, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that, when you deal with Oliveira, even as he gets older, his striking might be a little, and he's more like Oliveira gets caught.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy who's either trade and he'll get caught. Topuria is better with his hands than Oliveira.
Mm-hmm.
But when Oliveira gets skin to skin, he's usually a problem. To survive that guy, I didn't see the fight, and then y'all going to make me go ahead and YouTube that fight.
Okay.
I want to hear Caden's aspect on it, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we'll bring that back up. Tony, what do you think? What you think of Holly Holmes' easy win over Yolanda Vega?
I didn't see it. I caught bits and pieces of it after the fact, but I think that's what we had predicted on the show when we talked about it.
Right.
we all felt pretty confident it was going to maybe not be that easy, but she would pull it off.
Right. All right. Let me ask you this, then, Tony. Bringing up the name again, Jake Paul has called out Badu Jack. What's your thoughts?
Another guy that needs money. I mean, just go. No, man. I tell you, he needs to pick out somebody in their prime right now and go for a big fight. If he's such a great fighter, which he's gotten better, he's done his work, but at the end of the day, go pick somebody out that's in their prime right now and fight him right now. That guy from 10 years ago, a guy who's on his way out, Mike Tyson that's 20 out now. Go pick somebody now. If you're such a great fighter, quit talking about all the crap and fight for a big check. And let's see what really happens, because I'm not buying it. The more he fights and the people he's fighting that need money, like Chavez and stuff like that, it's a joke.
Right.
And if you want to carry on that joke, you're obviously not going to win every single match. You're going to need to take a loss.
Right.
Well, like I just said a few minutes ago, what better loss to take than Tyson Fury's brother, who you're going to give a big check to make his brother look good. And everybody still makes money. So,
right.
See, I'm gonna say this. I've been in sparring sessions to where I've literally been the guy who's fought Jake Paul. In sparring sessions to where, you know what? Well, actually, that's wrong, because I'm going to touch you and teach you in sparring sessions. And Jake Paul, you're fighting guys, and you're like, Mike Tyson's sparring mentality. Chavez Jr.'s sparring mentality. When I've seen these guys in the ring, and not even in their prime, but even with the animal, when they're older and they have that animalistic instinct, that wasn't them. When I'm saying this, the last real fight I've seen from Jake Paul is the Tyson Fury, the Tommy Fury fight. The Tommy Fury fight was his legitimate fight, and he lost against a legitimate boxer of the same sort of prime. When it comes to like Tyson and Chavez Jr., these guys literally. I mean, I know how these guys fight, and I know what it does. You fight to not hurt a guy. I know how that is too. I know how you spar, and not certain things you do, you don't want to hurt the guy. Do that easily when you know the guy can't hurt you. And Jake Paul, he tried to hit Tyson hard and he tried to hit, and you can't deal with these guys because these guys know boxing. When you and I don't want to keep you, but as soon as you say early in the fight, okay, this guy, he's this. You tend to step on the gas on those guys. You tend to step to them, and you tend to put pressure, and you tend to wear them out. That's how I know. That's how I'm figuring that this seems to be paid off. It seems to be not legitimate fighting. Because guys, when you see that, you step on the gas. I've seen two guys of a the highest quality, not do that against a guy that's easy. Even when you're older, even once you know it, it's done. It's not even an age matter. It's a fighting matter. Oh, that's what he's doing? He's done. All we're going to do is just stop the box on him. You have two pressure fighters, Mike Tyson and Chavez Jr., and they outside box this guy for, 7 out of 10 rounds? But then, when Chavez Jr. hit him with something good, he backed off. He did not let it go. He didn't keep it going. He didn't chop him down. So, as far as Jake Paul's concerned, even when they match up, there has to be a cause to where they can't even do anything to this guy. Because real fighting, I'm not even talking about boxing. Real fighting, that doesn't happen.
Right. Okay. Let me stay with you for a minute. Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway on 318.
I actually think that Dustin, I don't know. I think both of those guys are a little bit over the hill, but Dustin Poirier is heavier, hits harder. Max Holloway is better. I think he's better with his feet, better with his hands and his feet. As far as his offensively, I think Max Holloway is better.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is, Max Holloway will stand in there and trade with you, and Dustin Poirier is definitely the wrong guy to do that with.
Okay.
I just don't know how old Dustin Poirier, like, age is hitting both of these guys to the point to where one shot might do them both. Mm-hmm. Whoever lands it first.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't deny Max Holloway. I'm just going to favor Dustin because Dustin's heavier, and I think he might be able to absorb Max's shot before Max absorbs his shot.
Okay.
Dustin hits hard and he knocks his weight out.
Okay.
Max, he does the same, but Max is a guy who will put accumulation on you too.
Uh-huh.
Dustin, he's not an accumulation guy. Like Max, he's going to hit you until it hurts and then you're done.
Right.
Or he's going to wrestle you out. So, yeah, I picked Dustin, but at this point in time, at both of their careers, I don't know.
Okay, Tony, you do have that, still have that recipe, right?
You sure better believe yourself. Yes, I do.
Okay. Tony, tonight we got Kittrell versus Eubank. What's your thoughts?
Eubanks will take it. Not real thrilled about it. I hope Cuttrell takes it. I'm going for Cuttrell. I don't think he will.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I don't think Eubanks is going to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to throw one other thing out too, as well as the fight. I believe we had a picnic basket with someone on this one. I told everybody to watch that Schofield fight last week with Tevin Farmer.
Right. That was my next question.
Yes, that kid Austin. I saw a couple of years ago when he just debuted with his skills was amazing. And I said it back then. I believe it was recorded on one of the shows. I said, "This guy's going to go places," and he's not only exceptional as far as his physique and his training with his dad. I think they train out in Vegas, but his skills are like no other his age. I mean, I think honestly, I think he will put Tank Davis on the mat.
Ooh.
I truly believe he would.
Well, he put Tevin Farmer down in the first round.
It's like first 30 seconds,
yeah,
something like that. And,
yeah. And
there was it was bad. It was like he had no idea after the first one. He had no idea where he was at.
Right. Easy. Let me ask you a technical question, since you're a technical expert. Why is Rolly Romero requesting a smaller ring?
He's requesting what? I'm sorry.
Rolly Romero is requesting a smaller ring.
What if I do?
Shoot, I forget.
Yeah.
I know how.
Rolly doesn't. Rolly doesn't seem like a guy who requests any size of ring for anyone.
Right.
Like Rolly will fight anybody anywhere. He's that kind of guy. But if I could allude to the Tevin Farmer and Schofield, what I'm going to say is this. As far as that goes, Schofield, it's impressive to knock Tevin Farmer out. He's a defensive-minded guy who likes to counterpunch and likes to time you, and when he feels comfortable, he'll leave. But Tevin Farmer is a prototypical Philly-style type of boxer. And Schofield is a little more athletic, and right now he's fresher. fresher, more fast twitch. I think he caught Farmer early, and he caught Farmer early. He's bigger. He caught Farmer early with some big short stuff, and put Farmer out. I have to see him going more forward with it. I think it speaks more to Tim Farmer than it does to Schofield. Mm-hmm. I like what I see, but I can't be that high on him because he's moving in a place to where I'm not going to pick him over other people, especially at this point. He's like, right now, he's at 140, if I'm correct.
Right.
He's good because all of the animals they have vacated to 147. You're talking about Devin Haney. You're talking about Teofimo Lopez. Mm-hmm. He might, even if he has to fight, even if you talk about him fighting Gervonta Davis, Gervonta's not moving from 135 to 140. Mm-hmm. He's already talked about that. He's a smaller guy. He's actually a very smaller guy to where, he could, if he loses weight, he could fight at 126. Mm-hmm. That's Gervonta Davis. People don't understand how small he is. He just hits hard for his size.
Right.
So, but if you ask him to move 140, he's not going to consistently be at 140 because that's not going to be conducive to his weight. He trains a certain way. He's going to fight a certain way. That's on him. Mm-hmm. As far as Schofield goes, he has skills, but we need to see the level of his competition first. We need to move that up. Kevin Farmer, that's impressive. Yeah. I'll be a little higher on you when I see you fight a guy who's going to put up more resistance. So, Kevin Farmer, he's I hate to say it, but at this stage, kind of done.
Right.
Kind of done. The guy Teofimo just beat Kevin Farmer twice, and he kind of beat him twice. Mm-hmm. So I like Kevin Farmer. I love him. Because he's a gritty Philly fighter, but he's not a world beater.
Right. Hey Tony, let me ask you a question. Edgar Berlanga is crying. He wants a rematch with Canelo Alvarez. Would there be any difference, do you think, on the second round?
No. He's heard about somebody else too. I don't remember who it was I was reading about this week, but he's calling out this guy that he's fighting here, Shiraz. That's what it was, Shiraz.
Right.
And Shiraz went on live TV in New York, and I guess Berlanga is claiming everyone in New York knows he's the king. So Shiraz goes on there and starts asking people on the street, "Hi, my name is Shiraz. Do you know who Edgar Berlanga is?" And just go to all these people,
right,
and have like 20, 30 people, one person do his name, and only do his name because of Shiraz.
Yeah.
So they said, "Oh, this guy happens to be from East London or something like that, and where I'm from, and he knows him through me." So that was the only one. So it was kind of humorous, but Berlanga needs to waste his time on trying to run his mouth on somebody and back it up with somebody else. Not Canelo. Mm-hmm. He's not going to beat Canelo. He just needs to move on. And right now, he better watch his butt with Shiraz because Shiraz is going to probably put him out.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you don't mind me talking, I have to kind of agree with Tony's last statement. He definitely has to watch out for Shiraz because I am predicting Shiraz is going to win. He might stop him, but he's going to win. Berlanga is not going to beat Shiraz. Mm-hmm. If anyone has seen these two guys fight against certain levels of competition, he doesn't beat. And I'm going to put it up in terms that people, real boxing people understand. Shiraz beat Thomas Ademic. Mm-hmm. Berlanga, I wouldn't even put him up against Thomas Ademic. I would not even do it. Just even the time, I wouldn't do it. I'm not sure. Even if they might have fought before. Even if they fought before, I didn't see it. I'm not going to predict. I'm not going to predict Berlanga is going to be Shiraz. I can't predict it. It doesn't even look good for Berlanga. It doesn't look good at all for a guy who sits up there, and I'm there, if you don't mind, let me just break it down this way. A guy who sits up there, he's kind of quick-handed, and these two in front of him, against some guy who is not as quick-handed, doesn't need you in front of him, but it's 6 foot like Floyd. Against your 5'11", maybe. And he hits hard and throws educated punches from distance and on the inside. Wow, you kind of want to just get at a person and punch him. But either you do it educated to a degree, but the whole game is to get at a person and punch on them until they're done. Shiraz is a little more, I don't want to say refined, but he is. And he's bigger. He's a longer guy who's more refined on the inside. So if you even get inside with Shiraz, it's not going to go good. I mean, I watch these guys. I watch them get certain level of competitions. No, I'm not going to get that. I really, and if anybody wants to put any money, get money, talk, listening to me.
Whoa.
That on Shiraz, get money, listening to me. Berlanga is not going to win the fight unless the judges have the influence.
You never hear Steve talk like that.
Yeah.
No.
Steve ready to put his house on the line on that one.
Damn.
Well, no, not my house. I said, y'all bet money. I said, I'm a whole word man. I understand everything I say. No, for real, no. I don't think that, I don't think Berlanga stands a chance against it. I don't see what other people see, but I don't see, like Ty and I always talk about, if we would have made so much money on that Bivol Canelo fight,
right?
Everybody could pick Canelo, and me and Ty's like, oh, do you see this? What that Bivol's going to chop? There's no way Canelo's going to win this fight. And he buy Bivol all. You can't even buy him all together. So no, you can't. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel the same way with the Shiraz and Berlanga fight. That's all.
Okay.
Berlanga needs a new nickname, and I was thinking should be Hurt because he's got the mouth of the South to get people jacked up for the fights. That boy can talk some smack.
And he'll stand there and fight, but I don't think certain people you can't stand there and fight with. And be successful. And Berlanga, he's going to find that out for the second time.
Yeah, he's gonna get it this time. This time he's going to the hospital on this one, I think.
It's going to go worse than that.
Z, what do you think about Tom Aspinall signing a contract for 4 fights within the next year?
First thing is this. John Jones talked about he's retiring. And
right.
I heard he's celebrating. So yeah, that kind of lines up perfect with Tom Aspinall because we've been waiting all of this time for John Jones fight. Might as well. So now he needs to make money because he's not made money for how long?
Right.
But Tom Aspinall has been waiting for the John Jones fight since the last time he fought. It's been exactly. So now it's time to make money. This guy's retired. This guy's gone. And let's hurry up and get this done.
Yeah,
I understand exactly what he's doing.
Well, you know, just before we came on air, I was checking Yahoo and sports and MMA, and I see that all of a sudden John Jones now has said he will enter the pool to be tested. And so it would tell me that he's coming back and that possibly this was a play to try and work up more money for the fight, more viewers and more money for the fight. You think that's possible?
Absolutely. I think it is absolutely possible that John, just because he didn't, I mean, we already know John Jones, Dana White, they have that stuff of love, hate, and bullshit, relationship. If you get what I'm saying. Simple. I mean, you got love, hate, negotiate.
Right.
That's the relationship is. We've been doing this for years. My thing is this. You're holding Tom Aspinall up. If you ask me, John Jones, do what you're going to do, retire or fight. You're holding Tom Aspinall up. You're holding the title up.
Right.
You're holding, you know what I mean? The progression of the UFC heavyweight championship up. Mm-hmm. That means something. You know what I mean? I understand you're a singular person, but it means something more than you. I'm sorry, I'm talking, but that's selfish to me. Mm-hmm. So to a degree, it's selfish. And you watch throughout history, we watch heavyweight champions say, you know what, I'm either going to retire or I'm going to fight for this title. But I don't hold this title and I'm going to retire and not. You don't keep playing yo-yo with a title. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm seeing John Jones doing it with. Mm-hmm. Negotiations are negotiations. Either we stop the negotiations and relinquish the title, or we fight for it. Mm-hmm. But this is getting stupid. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, if you're not going to fight Tom Aspinall, which kind of is the guy who's up top now that you're not around, mm-hmm. then give it up. If you're not going to fight him, give it up. Mm-hmm. Either that or take some pre-fights to get ready. Take some preparation fights to get ready for Tom Aspinall. Right. But be active. My thing is, John Jones is not even active in the public. Mm-hmm. He's not active fighting. Mm-hmm. And he's on Tom Aspinall. I don't like that. Yeah. So, that's what's on my opinion.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you guys again for a fantastic show. We have a sort of a little celebration next week, the 11th, July 11th of 2004 is when we did our first show. So we'll be 21 years old next week. It's been a great run. We've had some fantastic people that have been associated with us. And our family loves everybody on this program at this point in time. Zine, you and Ty and Tony, Caden, Brady, everybody else that contributes, Bob Alexander. We really appreciate the friendship that we've developed over the years and your professionalism on the show. So with that, Tony, you want to lead us out?
Yes, sir. Another great show. Enjoyed it. Hope everybody had a happy 4th with their families this weekend. Definitely was a good weekend. Still not over. I would like to thank all my Fightnwords family right here. I love all you guys. I love enjoy spending Saturday evenings with you. And to Mr. Bernard out there, www.pkpeakbasket.com. I promise you they got the best of the best. I love you, sir. I'm looking forward for you to be back on next week, hopefully with us. We talk more, and all of you have a wonderful day, sir.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thanks, Tony. Z? Yeah. Z is still there?
Hello?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm very, very sorry. Oh, man. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Russell Pulse first. I'm sorry for coming in late. Dorsha, I want to thank Tony, Aiden, you Butch, all my Fightnwords for that. Definitely, these shows are definitely members of Dr. Chris, Coach Mel, and Bob. Anyone wants to hear any Fightnwords, please call.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, these programs are brought to you each and every night of the week in grateful appreciation to the men and women of the United States Armed Forces, the men and women of police and fire services. When you're out there and you see somebody in uniform, please let them know you know they're there. These are very, very dangerous times for anybody in uniform. We also want to thank the brave ladies and gentlemen, nurses at the hospitals and the first responders for their part on keeping us healthy. These programs are dedicated to those who lost their lives in the line of duty. Deputy Robert Anthony Carroll, Patrolman David Curtis, Patrolman Jeffrey Colcap, Patrolman Jeffrey Yazwitz, Sergeant Thomas Batinger, San Diego Surman Mike Henler, Sergeant Tom Wilson, Charlotte County Sheriff's Department, Detective Randy Bell, Detective Reed Childers, Patrolman Charlie Condit, Tarpon Springs Police Department, Deputy Chief Mike Godwin, Philadelphia Fire Department, Lieutenant Joyce Craig Lewis, Philadelphia Fire Department, Sergeant James O'Connor, Philadelphia Police Department, Sergeant Chris LeVake, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Mike Zerba, Newcastle County Police, Patrolman Norfolk Crispin, Lakeland PD, Deputy Josh Meyer, Knoxville County Sheriff's Department, Captain Matt Letourneau, Philadelphia Fire Department, Captain Chris Leach, Wilmington Fire Department, Lieutenant Ardith Hope, Wilmington Fire Department, Lieutenant Jerry Ficus, Wilmington Fire Department, Chief Jimmy Ford, Wilmington Fire Department, Chief Al Hogle, Longboat Key Police Department, Deputy Mike Hargrove, Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, Trooper Chelsea Richards, Florida Highway Patrol, Trooper Joe Bullock, Florida Highway Patrol, Trooper Zachary Ben, Florida Highway Patrol, Sergeant Chris Fitzgerald, Philadelphia Police Department, Sergeant Ramon Mendez, Philadelphia Police Department, Chief Corey Compontier, Buffalo Creek Fire Department, and Deputy Ronnie Wazinski of the Manatee County Sheriff's Department. My brothers and sisters, although you may be 10-7 at this point in time, and sometime we'll be 10-10 at the table of the Lord. Until that time, may the roads rise up to meet you. May the winds be always at your back. May the rains fall softly on your fields, the sun shine lightly on your face. Until we meet again, may the good Lord keep you and your family always in the palm of his hands. Good night, God bless, and have a great week.